Listen up, people. Manscaped have done it again. This time, it's the Chairman Pro, giving you a clean, close shave. The Chairman Pro is waterproof. The Chairman Pro has long-lasting battery life. And you use the code FTM20 and you will get 20% off of this product. I don't know what's happening here. My Wi-Fi is bugging. I hope you can all hear me. It said you're offline just as I was going live, which is always helpful. Put a thumbs up if you can hear me, Tom. Hey, okay, we're back. I don't know what was going on there. The video started replaying for me 3 times. My Wi-Fi was bugging out, but hopefully we're all good, man.
You also just revealed who you trust the most out of all of us four, clearly. By
yeah. Yeah, I gave that one away, that's for sure. Big up to the panel, man. Big up to Tom. Big up to Andrew Wintersurf, and big up to Roms. Great panel, man. Really happy to have you with us today. Please do us a favor, people. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Please make sure you do me a favor as well and check out manscaped.com. You've got to use the code FTM20 for 20% off at the moment for Christmas. And Reality Raffles are the other sponsor for 12th Man at the moment. Click on the link in the pinned comments or in the description. It's 99p for a ticket. At the moment, it's very hard to get to games, so they're trying to get more people to games through raffle prizes. It's only 99p to enter, and it's for any game of your choice. £500 potentially to win for a match day experience. So please make sure you get involved with that. More info in the description or pinned in this comment section. Tom, how are you, my brother? Been too long.
Yeah, good mate. Enjoyed a nice day off today. So got the Christmas shopping done, as we should. But I'll end up leaving a couple bits to last minute ultimately, because we all do.
Bro, of course we do, man. We wouldn't be men if we did not do that. Once I actually went on Christmas Eve and I did all of it in a petrol garage once when I was young. Absolutely. I've got bottles of wine, chocolates, sorted my stats, shampoo out. Do you know what I mean? Lastminute.com. Beautiful. Would never do that now, of course. But years ago, needs must. Winter Surfer, what are you telling me, brother? You good?
Yeah, I did all my Christmas shopping about a few weeks ago. Just gift cards. That's what I'm doing. You can spend the money on what you want. And, it's all good.
Do you know what? I don't actually mind. They're quite good to get because you can go and just pick what you want with it, can't you? Do you know what I mean? So fair play to you, bro. It's got to be done. Roms, how you feeling, my bro?
Big up the panel. Smash the likes first of all. Andrew, you're a genius because I hadn't started Christmas shopping yet, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do as well because it's easy. But yeah, long day. Traveling up to Liverpool tonight, actually, a couple hours after this. So, yeah, long day. But, yeah, looking forward to the weekend, man. When the Prem's back, it's always good. Well, depending on who you support. But for us for it, it's always good.
At the moment, it's good to get this panel on because the 3 of us are being told that we're the 3 that can go for the title. I don't really rule Manchester City completely out of it. I think it'd be foolish to do that under Pep. But at the moment, people are talking about the 3 of our clubs. And I think with Liverpool, Chelsea and Arsenal at the moment, there's different confidence in the fan base. There's a lot of Chelsea fans I speak to. They're a bit like, oh, no, we don't really want to be mentioned in that just yet. We're playing well. Let's just leave us to it. You've got a lot of Liverpool fans that are saying, yeah, it's going to be ours. And you've got some that are like, no, I'm not going to say that yet. And then you've got the same with the Arsenal lot who are like, nah, we ain't winning no title. And there's some going, there's still a long way to go. So I think it's a good time to start talking about that. We are going to start with Arsenal. Tom, injury news. Do you know what I'm fed up of saying that, by the way, this season? Injury news. But Gabriel could be back. Calafiori, I think Ben White, Tomiyasu, and Zinchenko, there's no mention on those. But Calafiori might not be ready. But Gabriel being back. However, the other night, bro, you and I were messaging like, what's his backline going to be? Any ideas? Answers on a postcard. And Lewis Skelly was unbelievable, man. Absolutely superb. Really impressed with him at left back. I thought he was excellent. I thought he allowed our left-hand side actually to flourish more than it has done this season with Marino in there as well. I think the natural left-footedness of both of them allowed Martinelli to flourish a little bit more, although I didn't think he was outstanding. There were certainly chances created for him through that. And Gabriel being back will just be even stronger for us at the back, man. So what do you know and what don't you know about the injury and team news this weekend, brother?
What does anyone know with Mikel Arteta not giving us any information ever? Sitting in some of those press conferences, it's, from a journalist point of view, it can be really frustrating. You ask a question and you don't get the answer back that you're hoping for. But I think when you're asking about injuries these days, you kind of know what you're asking for, which is very little. But as you mentioned, Calafiori Tomiyasu, Ben White, Zinchenko still going to be out from the sounds of things, but Gabriel returning is a big boost. And I think that, I talked about how I kind of had to hold my hands up a little bit this week after I watched Lewis Skelly against Monaco, because I felt like there's a lot of people who called for him to start against Fulham away from home in the last game. So I saw him more naturally left-footed on the left-hand side. And I didn't think having an 18-year-old jumping into that role, how much of a difference really that would have made to the overall performance. But I think having watched that game against Monaco, he showcased that actually, he could have had a significant impact if we'd have played, Timber on the right and him on the left. So I'd quite like to see him, continue in that role. And you've got to give credit in a way to Arteta for that, because he could have just started seeing it. He could have thought, I've got a senior player here, 27 years of age, and instead I'm going to pick the 18-year-old who's got more of a future at the club that we're expecting more from, need to give minutes to. And he really flourished. And obviously the pass that led to Arsenal's first goal as well was really good. And I think potentially him and Timber in the fullback positions this weekend, with Gabriel returning to be an extra kind of supporting figure next to him as well on that left-hand side, I think would create a really good dynamic for him.
Yeah, listen, I was a big fan, and I thought that it was a excellent sort of Champions League debut, I suppose. I know it's not his debut, but I think it was his Champions League debut.
Yeah.
Champions League start, sorry. So for me, I thought it was a real impressive one. And for 65 minutes I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch. And for an 18-year-old to do that in that role, and let's be real, it's not actually a left back. I know he can play there clearly, but he kind of grew up in more of a midfielder from what I understand. So for a 17, 18-year-old to come through and look so comfortable and calm and composed on the ball, I thought was absolutely superb to see. And I would continue him there 100%. I've got to say, Tom, I'm not a fan of this party at right back business at all. I understand that it's an absolute last resort and he can play there.
Yeah.
But for me, at the moment, I'd be looking now after that performance for Timber to play at right back, and then obviously Lewis Skelly to play at left back if Gabriel and Saliba are both going to continue at centre half. Do you think they'll go with that though, or do you think he's going to go Partey and Timber at fullbacks?
If I was a betting man, I'd bet on Partey and Timber, just because it's just what, it seems to be Arteta's more comfortable with the seniority, and I don't agree with it. I think that it's a needs must situation when you do it, but we're not in that situation, having just watched a really good performance from Lewis Skelly. And the only way that he's going to continue to develop is to get more minutes. If indeed it's not working out, then maybe you have to, change things up a little bit. But with Gabriel back, I think you've got the opportunity. I mean, worst case scenario, you don't have to use Partey there, because you could, if Gabriel is back, use Kivior at left back and play Gabriel left centre half and put Timber at right back. So there are other options, even if you don't want to use Miles Lewis Skelly in a Premier League game quite yet from the start. But I see no reason why not.
No. Roms, let me ask you, bro, because Arsenal have got a few options that we can do in defence because we've got quite a few players. You've also got quite a lot of options in midfield in terms of personnel. You can either play Jorginho or Partey in the 6 if you don't want Rice there. You can play Rice in the 8 or Marino in the 8. And obviously we've got Nwaneri who can come in now to the mix if Ødegaard's not there. I just feel like there's a lot of rivals that would look at Arsenal's attack right now and think, if it ain't going to be Saka and Ødegaard, then I don't really care for Havertz clinically. Jesus the other night was a laugh trying to score. Martinelli's gone through a bit of a dip at the moment, and so's Trossard. I just think it's quite obvious where Arsenal are weak. Or is that just me, Roms? What are you saying, bro? Oh, you're on mute, bro.
I think for probably the best part of a year now, it has been your left-hand side. And when I say left-hand side, I still think there's a player in Martinelli, whether he's your winger that takes you to the league, I doubt it. I still think some of your fans don't believe that you've replaced Xhaka. I know Marino's coming to that role. Again, I think he's a good player. I'm not going to start saying, he's rubbish, he's this and that. But to get Arsenal back to where they want to be, I'm not sure he's there. And you had the solution, in my opinion, Calafiori. I think defensively he can be a bit suspect. I think you saw that in the Leicester game. He kind of ball watched for Justin's volley, and there was a game the other day, I think in the West Ham game, one of their goals, he was a bit susceptible then, but I still think he's a good player. I can't be a hypocrite. When we were linked with him, when both clubs were linked with Calafiori, I wanted him, but I think your left-hand side, now with him being out, there is an imbalance, and I'm with you, Potts. I don't agree with putting Timber there and putting Partey right back, because Partey, like I said to you, I think yesterday we had a show, I think other than Saka, he's been your best player. Some might say he's been your best player, period, this season. And I think that's an imbalance, taking him out of the role he's flourished in the middle. Now, you put Lewis Skelly there, and like you said, I think he can do a job at left back, but through the academy, he's been more of a midfielder. That's why he looks so comfortable doing it. But I think your problem against Fulham is not even just that your left back was correct me if I'm wrong, was it Zinchenko or was it Zinchenko the game before?
Game before we had at left back we had Timber at left back, Party right back for Fulham.
Yeah. So I feel like when it was Kivior for me is a weak link, and that's well known. You've had injuries there, but I think for the game before that, I think the United game, when I saw Zinchenko and Kivior, I was like, again, the left hand side is quite weak. Obviously, you changed it up and you've put Timber there, the Fulham game, but you still looked like that's the side you can get down, and that's where the goal came from. Ultimately, when Raul Jimenez hit early from your left hand side. I just feel, as it stands right now, there's not, unless you've got your 11 fit, and we know how seasons are, you're never going to have your starting 11 fit from start to end. Unless you have the majority of your 11 fit, I just feel like that's your weakest side. And I'm not really sure from the outside looking in what the solution to that problem is. But if you're going off the Monaco game, I only saw highlights because I favoured the City and Juve game. I feel like you should probably put a Lewis Skelly there as opposed to a Zinchenko, because as good as Zinchenko is going forward, his defensive frailty. So that's my opinion on your left hand side.
Yeah, the left hand side is certainly something I've been kind of looking at for the last 12 months as weakness. But I'll come to you, Winter Surfer, with Arsenal. And the reason I'm asking for weaknesses is not just because I always believe we should look at trying to improve. And I'd say that even if we were 9 points clear. But perhaps if I was 9 points clear, I wouldn't be so bothered about where we were weak, because everyone else would be weaker, right? So I think now we need to be looking at where Arsenal potentially gone wrong. I think injuries have definitely hurt us. I don't think there's any denial of that. But this is why I look back to the summer transfer window and still think that it wasn't that great. Where do you think Arsenal are weak right now, Winter Surfer? What are you telling me, bro?
Well, I just don't. He seems to not know. Seems to move Party in and out of midfield regularly. Do you know what I mean? Like he has been doing. Left hand side is obviously an option with Martinelli, and Trossard comes in, but is Trossard a good enough start? I think his best impact's off the bench normally. Do you know what I mean? And who else are you going to play there? Do you maybe shift Havertz out there and put Jesus up top? But Jesus was appalling against Monaco, I think. He missed a couple, and against Fulham, he just dodged a coming together with the goalkeeper that could have got you 3 points. It's like you say, you have to go back to the summer transfer window, and I think the recruitment has to be looked at in terms of especially the Sterling deal on the last day of the window. It just didn't make any sense. I know it came from my club, but it's just one of those things. But I think with your record against Everton, though, which is I think one of the best records at home, especially you got against them. I think having Partey at right back probably is okay for a game against Everton. I know they're coming off 10 days off with the Merseyside derby being cancelled last year, but I think there's something that you'll be able to get away with essentially, But I think you have to start Skelly, because if you don't start him, I think what will that do to his confidence? You know what I mean? He's had a good game against Monaco. Bring him in, start him. Even if he doesn't finish the game, just give the lad more confidence in future games coming up. But like I said, I don't know what is Mourinho going to start. Is Mourinho going to start again tomorrow? He seems to be chopping and changing with him. He's brought Jorginho back, chopping and changing with him. Rice is probably the only constant that's been there this season, obviously given the injuries. But the left hand side, I think, has been a bit of been the biggest weakness probably for over a year now, trying to sort that out with Martinelli's form, the left back situation, whether it would be Zinchenko or putting Timber over there. But I think the left hand side is the biggest one. But I just don't think it'll be that worrying against Everton, if I'm being honest with you. You usually smash them, don't you? So it's no matter who's there, the record against them is very, very good at home. So the left hand side for me needs sorting, but I don't know. Is he going to stick with Havertz up top still? Is he going to switch? Is he going to start Jesus again? Because that's been one of the options that he's used recently. But I don't know if Arteta is just overthinking things as well. Do you know what I mean? If he's trying to be too smart sometimes in this, and that's where he probably picked that up from Pep. Do you know what I mean? The overthinking of it. So it's just one of the things. But I think you'll be more than fine tomorrow against Everton. Especially there.
We should be. I mean, we've had good games at home against Everton. We've struggled away at times, but we've certainly had good. I can think back over the years, and we've had brilliant games against Everton at home. But I do take your point, and I ask you this, Tom. Do you think Arteta has overthinked and chopped and changed a bit? Because there's a difference between rotating the team and chopping and changing the first 11. Like, what's your thoughts on that, bro?
I think obviously a lot of it's been enforced to a degree. The injuries Arsenal have faced and the suspensions Arsenal have had as well because of the crazy red cards we've also endured this season too. So I think some of it has been enforced. It feels like that there was a degree where in the last 2 seasons Arsenal have also been accused of burning out at the end of the campaign, and that Arteta has not used his squad well enough throughout the season to conserve energy so that they can go the distance. So I think there is an emphasis on trying to, keep players well rested, especially when Arsenal have got, every cup competition. You've got 2 extra games in the Champions League this season. If they reach a League Cup semi-final, which everyone would expect them to do with, Crystal Palace being their opponents next week, that's another 2 games for another semi-final, which is still mental to me that they do a 2-legged semi-final for the League Cup, but that's the way it is. So I think there's an element of trying to preserve and keep players as fully fit. But what it unfortunately does when it is maybe a bit too over the top is it fails to allow teams to kind of gel partnerships and to become more familiarised with one another. Arsenal started, I think it was their 10th back 4 of the season against Monaco. That is because of injury. That's not through, just our decision making. But that has obviously unsettled things, and I think our build-up has been affected by that, which in some ways means, you look at the table and think how Arsenal is, still ahead of Manchester City, even though they've suffered one real major injury, City. But Arsenal have been so peppered with these problems, and yet have maintained a relatively good record besides that dip in form we had in November. So I'm looking at it, and I hope that our injury situation, gets better, because when Arsenal do have their players like Calafiori and Timber able to play those positions, Gabriel in there, a midfield of either Partey and Rice and Moreno and Ødegaard, whatever combination we want, we know that we can be very strong and we can, fly through teams when we're at our full capacity.
Yeah, look, Tom, we've got some fixtures that are winnable. People said I said that before. I did say that before Fulham. But actually, Fulham a few weeks ago were the ones I looked at and thought maybe we could drop points there. That was actually before we started to play the likes of West Ham's and Sporting Lisbon's and Forests, I believe, the way that we were, and actually putting some goals past them. When I looked at those results, I thought, and after Man United, maybe we can keep this going. And then when I saw how Fulham set up and how we were trying to break them down and how we were fading to, and it was becoming a little bit old school set pieces at times, I was thinking, yeah, this might not be the game that we win. But I think against Everton, we should be able to get through them. And I do think that there's a kind of number of things that we could do in this game, team news-wise. But actually, aside from that, I just want to be seeing some of the free-flowing football that we have been seeing in some of those games that I mentioned, because I just don't think it was there against Fulham. Now, some of that I think was because our right-hand side was a little bit missed. I don't think Partey is the same as Timber down that right-hand side. But if we do play that way and Partey does start at right-back, I really want to be seeing the likes of Ødegaard and Saka getting back into this game. I think Havertz will probably play. I probably would start Martinelli, because I think Trossard has proved time and time again he's better when he's an impact from the bench. And in midfield, I just prefer Rice in the 6, mate. I've got to be real with you. And I've said this a number of times. Thought he was really good the other night when he was playing there. I don't like him on this left-hand side of the 8. He looks uncomfortable, a right-footed player trying to play there. And I don't see him being this like kind of Gerrard run late into the box type player. I just don't see him in those attributes whatsoever. So I would rather see him in the 6, man. So what would you like the team to be tomorrow, my bro?
So Skelly, I think, left back. I think Timber right back. Gabriel hopefully back with Saliba in the middle. David Raya, of course. I mean, we don't talk about David Raya anymore because he's just so good. The whole Ramsdale debate is a null and void point. Yeah. You could argue with obviously Alisson being injured, Edison, having his issues this season. You could argue he might even be the best keeper in the league this season, David Raya. So I think he's certainly up there in terms of the debate. I think that then you probably I'd agree with you, Rice at 6. I think we've got a lot of games coming up, and Partey's played a lot and has had that injury that kept him at the West Ham game. So I'd argue that we could rest Partey here. I thought Moreno was really good in midweek. And so I'd play Rice and Moreno in midfield and continue with Ødegaard. I spoke to Moreno after the game on Wednesday, and he was asked a question with the reporters there about how he felt playing with Rice and Ødegaard. And, he was really he's very comfortable playing with those two, and he feels like it clicks and works. So clearly there's some chemistry there between the three of them that needs to build that we haven't seen so far. and then it'd be Havertz, Saka, and then you've got a choice because, as we talked about, Trossard's been hit and miss, Martinelli's been hit and miss. I have no confidence to play Sterling there. You could argue Jesus could play left wing as well, and obviously created that goal against Monaco from the left-hand side with a good cross that we've been lacking, that type of cross from the left-hand side a little bit this season. So I guess in a way it's take your pick because you're rolling a dice with any of them in terms of the performances. I'd argue maybe Trossard's got quite a good record against Everton. He's got a really good goal at Goodison Park not so long ago.
Yep.
I think actually Martinelli may have scored as well in one of those games. I think when the big win that we had a couple of seasons ago. So I'm leaning slightly towards Trossard, but it might end up being Martinelli just because obviously Martinelli started midweek. So that usually means that they'll swap for the weekend.
Do you think that, before I come to the boys on this, Tom, do you think January is massive for Arsenal? I mean, it could be massive more than just Arsenal, but I just feel like we need to get something done. Now, I know a lot of people will say, who's available? Who are we going to get? That's all you ever get from people who's...
Was that your impression of me?
Well, no, it's not actually. But if you have said that, then maybe it is. But if there was any time for us to try and strengthen, I feel like there needs to be something in that front line that comes in January. But what are your honest thoughts? Do you not think Arsenal will do anything?
I don't think they've got any excuses, but to do something in January. I really don't think there's any argument financially, options wise. I think there are players out there. I think those that are hoping for a centre forward are going to be let down. I don't expect that to happen, but certainly a versatile attacking player that can play on either flank. I like Brian Mbeumo as a potential option. I think you got a player there that if you want somebody who you can rotate Saka with, great, and he can cover at centre forward as well if you ever needed him to, and to rotate with Havertz or play with Havertz if you want to drop him off him. I think I've talked to you about Ademola Lookman, who I really have enjoyed watching over the last 18 months as well. Another Premier League option, I was talking to Andrew from Arsblog this morning on a show, and he suggested Semenyo as a player that he likes as well from Bournemouth. Not really being talked about too much as kind of a Trossard-esque type deal from another Premier League club that we've had success with in the past. I think defence needs to be considered. I know it seems very classic Arteta, we need a forward, sign a defender, but we've got so many issues, that Tomiyasu is effectively like not even a player you consider it part of the squad at the moment because he's just always out. So I think Arsenal need to look at a versatile player. Ben White hopefully will be back in the first couple of months of next year, fingers crossed. And so I do think the left-hand side needs to be looked at with, Zinchenko probably moving on. Tomiyasu has been mentioned moving on. Timber is more of a right-back. Tierney's going to move on. And I like Yoel Hato a lot from Ajax, a young player that can offer you a cover, not just at left-back, but at left centre-half as well. So I think that there are options out there for Arsenal. Whether they go out and spend the money, though, Dan, is always the next big question.
Yeah, it's a huge question, man. I mean...
I know Liverpool are always, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit. If I'm honest, out of all of our clubs here, I think Chelsea are the ones that I have more faith in spending in January because they just always spend money, right? But when it comes to what people need, I think Arsenal and Liverpool, I think with Liverpool, they're in the scenario where Arsenal were in. Where do you remember we were like sort of 8 points clear or 5 points clear? And it was like January, and we were like linked with Caicedo, we were linked with Mudryk at the time. We ended up getting Jorginho, Trossard, and Kiwior, which, to be fair, at the time was fairly underwhelming compared to the names we were linked with. Probably all three of them have done their job at Arsenal so far. To be fair, I think Liverpool are in that scenario where actually, if you went and got a couple of players in Roms, I think that you would definitely look at your season and go, oh, that's what we needed. Chelsea, I think if they went and got a couple of bits done, I think probably people would just go, yeah, it's Chelsea. We expected that, right? But I actually do think that could then cement their top four and title race challenge, in my opinion. With Arsenal, I actually think it's got to the stage where if we don't, I think it could severely damage our season. And people might think that's dramatic, but I actually do think it's got to that stage where Arsenal are so short in certain areas, or they've just got players they don't want to use. Like, I haven't seen Raheem Sterling. I think he's a cardboard cutout or a hologram now. I've not seen the guy for about 8 weeks. So I don't know. I think we need to look at where Arsenal are at. And I do think
we didn't see him for 2 years, Dan. So you've only had 8 weeks.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. But I do feel like I do think it's that serious. And I think if we don't get something in that forward line, and I like some of the names that Tom has mentioned. I know a lot of people will go to Isak on. I just don't think that's a January signing. I think the Gyökeres one could be a summer one now as well, from what we're hearing. And I think if you look at striker options, you're only really looking at like Osimhen or maybe Marmoush from Frankfurt or somebody like that, if you really want to bring somebody in January. Lookman, maybe there's a deal that could be done there depending on money. You're all Harto at the back. I hear a lot of good things about him. Tom, you know more than me. I don't. I just hear that he's a left-sided defender that can play either left-sided centre-back or left-back. I feel like we've kind of got about 8 of them, but they're all injured.
They're all injured, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, man. I feel like I don't know what you think as a panel. Do you think if Arsenal failed to do something in January, would you? Oh, let me ask you a better question. If Arsenal were to get the right player, just let's say it's just one, because I don't think Arsenal are going to go out and get 4 or 5. We get that one striker or attacker. Would you have more faith in Arsenal winning a trophy this season? Let's start with you, Roms.
Yeah, like me and you said yesterday, I do think you'll win one of the domestic cups, whether it's FA Cup or Carabao anyway. So I do think you win something this season. But your squad's capable of more. It's capable of winning the league. Do I think you'll win the league? No. And I'll go as far as saying, and I'm only saying this because there'll be games that are on a knife's edge, and I don't think, if it's not Saka, you don't have the other player to do it. If you don't get a forward in January, I'm not subscribing to this notion that the league's already done. I think we'll win it, but I can see us dropping points and Arsenal will close the gap. I don't think it will be a landslide. Whoever wins the league, I don't think it'll be won by a landslide. But I do think you need that other forward because Saka, look, he's your talisman. When things aren't going your way, he's the guy to get you out of most situations. But if he's not, and it's been evident in some games last season, Fulham, I think I'm away. West Ham, I'm away. Villa's the key game. And I think, because I remember that game, Odegaard and Saka were excellent first half, and it kind of got ousted out the game. And that was title defining, and we lost on the same day to Palace as well, which I think added even more pressure onto yourselves. So for me, if you was to get another defender or midfielder or whatnot, that just solidifies, that bolsters your squad. But in terms of you getting over the line, I do think you need a forward. And like you said, some fans might say who's realistically out there, but it's better than what you have now, and it's an upgrade on what you have now. So I think if you don't get forward, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. But again, the thing is, I understand the standpoint from fans that say, yeah, but you don't just want to bring in any old forward. You want to bring someone that buys into what Arteta's trying to do, which I get. But I look at Trossard, and you said something key. I always used to be an advocate for Trossard starting. I think he's such a baller. Again, a player I wanted us to sign before you signed him. But when I started to see him start games, it's like, oh, this is why Arteta brings him on as an impact sub, because sometimes he gets ousted out of the game. So you look at him, he's more of an impact sub. Martinelli, he's not cutting it right now. Jesus can't hit a barn door, similar to our situation with Nunes. You put both of them one-on-one and they're just not hitting back in the net. Havertz a baller, which I rate, but he's not the guy to take you over the line. So now I'm only looking at Saka. So you need to bring in a forward. And this is what kind of separates just second place and you getting over the line. I think maybe break the record for Gyökeres if you can. Isak, I agree with. That's a summer signing. It always has been. When people entertain Isak in January, it's not happening. But Gyökeres, there's a buyout clause there for a reason. In my opinion, they won't win the league now. I keep an eye on the Portuguese league. I've got a friend that's from there. They've literally not won in their last 4, I think 3 or 4. Benfica and Porto are closing in. He might think, you know what? Let me go to a team that's more poised to win the league. He's already achieved what he can there. I'm trying to think of Marmoush. I think that's another summer one. I don't think he'll leave Frankfurt during the season. But at the end of the day, you need to remember who you are as well. You're Arsenal Football Club. So if you do good for a player in January, then most likely you're going to have to overpay, which teams don't want to do. But I've said this to you many times, Potts. This January, I think you'll see the most spent in any January we've seen in history, because I think for us to get over the line, I've got the same energy for my club. We need to sign in January. You lot do. City definitely have to. Chelsea just will, because they're Chelsea, like you said. So I think this will be the January where a lot of money gets spent. But to answer your question, Potts, I do think you need to sign a forward. I think it's so imperative. If you leave that window without signing a forward, I already think we're winning the league, but that will make me even more sure. That will give me that 20% extra belief that we're winning the league. But yeah, I think you need one.
I just think it's imperative that I think you need to sign a left-sided player, even probably more than a central one, because it will just give greater balance. You know, everyone's so focused on Arsenal's right-hand side of Odegaard and Saka, trying to shut them down, that because they don't rate the left-hand side, it's easier for teams to identify and try and lock them up. You know, when you played against us, I think, you know, I know Martinelli scored and everything had a chance, but the main focus was stopping like Saka and Odegaard. and put it over there. It just helps as well. If you got someone that, I know he wouldn't sign, but say if you bought like someone like Anthony Gordon and played him on the left, right? You know what I mean? How much attention would that take away from the opponents on Saka and an Odegaard and free up space, even to get the ball through to a Jesus or a Havertz? It's just having the options there. It's making other managers go overthink things and, you know, try and like, oh, I've got to take care of him. I've got to take care of that. For the last, like, this season, especially with Odegaard being out, all the focus has been on Saka. Rightly so, because he's a very, very exceptional, brilliant player. Do you know what I mean? But it's allowed then other managers to go, okay, well, I can move someone over there because I don't need to, because Martinelli's not doing well or Trossard's not doing well, etc. I can pay extra attention to Saka, and I can close the most dangerous part of Arsenal off. And that's where probably what happened. That's why you had a bad, like, end of October, November sort of thing. So I think it's imperative to get a wide left player. You know, I don't know if like Semenyo. When you said Semenyo, I went, yeah, because I saw that guy absolutely destroy. I know it's easy to do, but he destroyed Spurs a couple of weeks ago. Absolutely destroyed them. Absolutely destroyed them, and probably should have had like a couple at least. But he's been very impressive. Even against you guys, even against us, even against City, he's really shown up in the big games as well. So he's got that. So he's not afraid to show up. That would be an excellent signing. It's just whether you'll be overcharged, like Rom says. That's the issue, especially in January. You've got to work. You've got to be hoping your guys are work. Like, remember when Liverpool signed Van Dijk and he literally announced it on Christmas Day?
Christmas Day, yeah.
You need something like that. You need. It doesn't have to be on the 1st of January, but you need it early. You don't want to be going around last day January transfer window is probably the worst.
Worst, yeah. Do you know what, Andrew? I want to add on to one of your points just before you come in. Right, you're actually spot on with the left wing thing because I'm gonna compare it. I don't want to bring everything back to my club, but I'm gonna compare it to the season we won the league. Right? People subscribe to this notion that you have to have a banging 9 or a prolific 9 to win the league. You don't, because Firmino wasn't a prolific 9. I remember when City won the league. I think for a season, Aguero got
no striker. They went back.
Yeah, I think De Bruyne and Gundogan was playing false 9. Right. What you need though in your front three is 2 players simultaneously hitting similar numbers. Arsenal actually had it in 22-23 where Jesus had an amazing first 6 months, got that injury just for the World Cup. But Martinelli and Saka, I think both, correct me if I'm wrong, you two, they both got, I think, double digits in league
Martinelli
goals.
Had 15 goals and 6 assists.
And then Odegaard also had, I think, 15 league goals.
I think he had 15 goals, yeah.
You had 3 players that had forget assists in what I'm saying, but you had 3 players that broke the double digits goals in the league. And I'm not comparing before people in the chat say, different level. The difference is, though, we had Mane and Salah, which were a bit older, both probably at the start of their peak, and they were hitting similar numbers. If Martinelli had a season this season that he had in 22-23, I don't think there'll be this obsession with a 9. I genuinely don't think there'll be this obsession with a 9. But because he has kind of had a dip, I can't even say a dip in form now, because form's normally maybe a month or 2. He's had a bad, let's say, 12 to 18 months.
He's regressed.
Yeah, he's regressed. And because, sorry, I'm just sugarcoating, you're right. He's point blank just to regress. But because you've only got a Saka now, if Saka had that other person in your front three that was helping him out, one, I think you'll be probably top or on par with us. And I don't think you would have this obsession with a 9. You need 2 out of your front three or a goal-scoring midfielder that's chipping in, as Odegaard was doing that season. So you're spot on, Andrew. Maybe it's a left-sided player.
I'm glad that you both kind of brought up Martinelli in a way because, like, we all talk about like the fact that Arsenal need to bring a left wing. We shouldn't be in this position. Yeah. Because 2 years ago, Gabriel Martinelli was considered to be, at times up there with the best left wingers in the Premier League. Like we were talking about a player whose future was meant. We were talking about a guy that Jurgen Klopp was wishing he had at Liverpool. I remember that game.
About him every press
I remember the League Cup game where we won on penalties, and afterwards he was talking about how much he loves Martinelli. And I can't. There's a couple of things. Obviously, he's had injury issues, which has affected him for sure, and that does affect some players, but not usually players at that age bracket. It's interesting that his regression has in some ways aligned with the arrival of Trossard. It's not really something I've seen talked about too much, is that from the point that Trossard arrived in January of 2023, Martinelli's output has significantly dipped. And obviously he's not playing as many minutes, but it's almost like he's shriveled to the competition in some ways, and that Trossard's presence there, I'd argue that of the two since Trossard came in, even though Trossard's main impact has come from the bench, he still scored some important goals starting games. Think about his goal, against Porto in the Champions League, for instance, when he started that match. He has scored some in some big games in from starts, but I think Trossard's edged it. Not even just edged it. I think Trossard's been the better player of the two in the last 18 months or so, nearly 2 years. And it's interesting that kind of Martinelli's has withered in that time. And it's frustrating that we have to have these conversations about Arsenal needing a left winger because we shouldn't be in that position. And, Arteta's got to take some of that because as a manager, you've got to try and get the best out of your players. And he's not been able to get that from Martinelli. And I think that maybe is a question that should be put to him.
Look, I think I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Newcastle, and everyone's sort of panel's giving me a load of stick for it. But they got 3 players I'd take. I'd take Isak, Gordon, and Bruno G. I think all 3 of them walk into our first team as well, if I'm honest with you. And I think they make it better. Yeah. And I got to say, talking of Newcastle, Pete, mate, I'm just saying how much I want your players, really, mate. I'm just saying how much you want for Isak.
I've been listening. I've got Andrew's been touting Gordon off to Arsenal, and now
I wanted him at my club. I want all those that said he's not good enough. I wanted him at my club when we went in. I
was dying for Gordon. I would
have paid 60 million for him at the time, no problem, because he's worth it. He's absolutely worth it. He's brilliant.
I mean, are there rumours of them 3 sort of getting unsettled at Newcastle? Will they all 3 of them stay in? What's happening? Because there's a lot of interest from Bruno in City. Isak's been forever one of my favourites, and Gordon, a lot of people are looking at, not just including Liverpool now, man. So talk to me, Pete. What's happening?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It's been a really unsettling summer for those 3 players because those 3 players were linked with other clubs. So Bruno was the obvious one with his release clause. In June, he didn't go. We got as well as that, we had Isak that was linked with Chelsea just before PSR deadline, and then obviously we had Gordon that was seemingly very, very close to moving to Liverpool, and that didn't happen because we sold Anderson. And there's no doubt about it. It's affected at least one of those players, Gordon in particular, because Gordon doesn't look the same player this season. I know people are bigging him up and talking about him in positive light, but he is not the same player that we saw last season. And he's come out and he's spoken on Sky and he's done all of his talking. He talks really well, and he absolutely does. He's definitely been PR trained. But for me, as a Newcastle fan, I need to see those performances on the pitch because it's not the same as what we saw last season. It's not even half. And yeah, he played really well against Liverpool, but in my opinion, that's the only game he's played well in this season. And for obvious reasons, he would have been motivated for that game. I don't think he's played well. He hasn't. He's got 3 goals and 1 assist. He's had lots of opportunities to score more. He had the 1-on-1 against you. He's not really performed, but he's not the one I'm really worried about in terms of leaving Newcastle United. He's just signed a new contract, so he's here for the long haul. He's even said that in his interview. So I don't see him moving. I'll be honest with you, the one I fear the most is Alexander Isak. He's my only, in the whole squad, he's my only unsellable. He's the one that we cannot sell. Regardless of us getting Europe or not, we cannot sell him because there is no one that can replace him. And he's got a contract till 2028, so we don't have to sell him. And for me, that's the one I don't sell. The one I can see genuinely happening, because I don't see more than one leaving, one of those big players. I only see one of them leaving. I genuinely see Bruno leaving in the summer. I think he will go. The question is who he'll go to. I know Pep is a massive, massive fan of Bruno. I genuinely can see him leaving. And if he doesn't go to Man City, then I see him probably going back to France with PSG. They're probably the 2 teams that I can see them paying. But it has been unsettling. We haven't had a good season. We've been absolutely rubbish for long parts of this season. We had a decent game against Arsenal, beat Arsenal. Forest, we did well. And we obviously knocked out Chelsea in the cup, but arguably Chelsea's reserves. So they're the only 3 games that I can say that we've played with real promise and got results. We had a really good game against Liverpool, but we're unlucky not to win. We're in a difficult position right now. We need to win our next 4 games. I've said it on my channel. Newcastle United need to win their next 4.
I put you high, Pete. I put you high, man. You know I did. I thought you'd get Champions League. I thought one game a week. You got a great squad, and I thought, yeah, we'd be there. But it ain't work, man. I don't know how much of it's down to how much of it's down to players not performing, if it's a little bit of both. But I've been disappointed with Newcastle this season, man. They've been up and down. They've been inconsistent. And I keep, I've got people like Don laughing at me because I put them you above Chelsea and all this, that's what Don does, right? But I mean, obviously, I haven't put you above Chelsea now, but I look at what Newcastle before a ball was kicked, and I really fancied you to do well because I thought last season you were depleted with injuries. You had Champions League football, and the combination of those two things just allowed your league form to drop. Then you started to pick it up again, funnily enough, when you got your players back. So I said this season, without any of those nonsense games you're going to have to play, not that they are nonsense to you, because obviously Champions League you want to be in, right? But one game a week, I really felt like with your squad that you've got, with your 11 that I thought would stay fit, the majority of it, I really fancied you to go and get Champions League football again. And now I'm looked silly, Pete.
Well, to be fair, we all do as Newcastle fans, because what you saw is what we saw. We saw the same thing. And to be fair, we were not necessarily promised it, but we were told that is likely to happen. One game a week, all of our players back fit. We've got a couple of injuries now, but we haven't had hardly any injuries. And for long parts of the season, the only real injuries have been Sven Botman, who's thankfully back in full training. He'll probably be back around sort of end of December, January time. So we've not had those excuses. But for me, if you're asking me, I'm saying the players need to take responsibility just as much as Howe. If you're asking some of the fan base are going to say it's all Howe. It's on Howe. He needs to go. For me, it's a bit of both. Howe is not, he doesn't escape any criticism. He's made some bad decisions with selections, with formations, with substitutions in game that haven't been great. But I tell you what, some of the players' attitudes in the last 2 or 3 games have not been good enough. That last 30 minutes against West Ham, when we were 2-0 down, we didn't even put a shot on Fabianski's goal. And the lack of want and will to get forward was just an absolute joke. On top of that, go on, sorry.
Pete, do you think it's like you said? Do you think it's like your big three they thought they were going to leave in the summer, and they I know Gordon's signing you. Just on a side note, is there any release clause in the Gordon contract that you know about or anything like that?
There's been no.
That's mad. That's surprising. That's mad. He wouldn't put that in if he wanted to leave in the summer as well. That's mad. But
well, the thing about it is, go on. Sorry.
And also, do you think it's like you said, it's sort of like, I think Howe's like, because I've noticed like Joel Linton playing on the left a lot more, like sort of wider on the left a lot more this season. Do you think that he's like moving too many pieces about? And also, your recruitment was, well, I say your recruitment this summer, it wasn't the best, was it? Do you know what I mean? To refresh this squad, especially after like last season where it was overstretched with the Champions League. So do you think it's just he's just found himself in like a tornado, and he doesn't know where he's going to land next, essentially, how and what to do with the players and the formation and stuff like that.
I think it's a fair point with regards to moving pieces around. What I will say with Joe Linton is when we finished 4th, he actually played left wing a lot of the games. A lot of people talk about Joe Linton being this like all-action centre midfielder, which he can be at times. But actually, his best football was played on the left wing when Alan St-Maximin was out. And he scored, I think, 7-8 goals that season, all of which were on the left-hand side of the front three. And that was before and after we signed Gordon. So, he's moved 1 or 2 pieces. The biggest reason he's moving pieces around is because we're in desperate need for a right winger. We have been for 2 years. We've got Miguel Almiron, who's just not good enough, who we want to leave and should, I think, leave in January. And then we've got Jacob Murphy, who, great squad player, loves the club, supported the club as a kid, all the rest of it, but he's just not good enough. If you're fighting European football, he's not that guy. And so we've been crying out for a right winger for so long. And I think because of that, we're having to makeshift Gordon, Barnes, Joe Linton in that position. And they're not right wingers. And I think that's part of the biggest frustration. But your initial point, Andrew, I think is an interesting one. If you'd have asked me in the summer, I would have said no. None of those sort of players expected to leave. But now we've seen things unravel. I actually think Bruno expected to leave during that window. I think he expected.
That's because there was all that buyout clause reports, weren't there? Like 100 million. Man City were linked to him in the summer that they were going to trigger it. But
they were the only ones.
Then like you said, Isak was linked to us for the PSR transfer window, but during that one, and then Gordon, like you said, flirted with Liverpool essentially like that, and also with Gordon, I think he's been played down the middle. They've been using because of injuries. You've been able to use a Gordon like West Ham used Bowen, either on the right or down the middle. It's like
he's not a striker, man.
And Isak this season, especially Isak, there's something weird with Isak because. Even in his play, because against us, you had that chance right at the end where he could have squared it to make it like 2-2, right? And he just—I don't know what he's thinking. It's like he's made up his mind. He's going, and he's just like it looks like he's just like waiting out till the summer. Essentially, it just doesn't. It doesn't look his body language. Doesn't look right at all.
I've got a question on Isak because we've touched on that, but you know how you said for you, your personal opinion, he's unsellable. What's the likelihood of you selling him? Because everyone seems to think it's a foregone conclusion. He's definitely going to leave if Newcastle don't get European football. But then I read it back and I say, hold on. I'm not even going to say he's injury prone because I think you would agree with me, Pete. There's this notion he's been injury prone this season. He's only missed 2 or 3 games. I just think he started the season off bad. So people are just coinciding that with injury when he's actually been fit the majority of this season. And I think he came off on one of the games recently, but then he came back for us. But everyone seems to think it's a foregone conclusion. But one, you're going to have to pay minimum 100 million. I didn't even know you're contracted till 2028. I thought you only had 2 years left, not 3 years from the summer. So you're in a very strong position.
Yeah.
And clubs might think, cool, because he's had a history of being injury prone, even though it's not been this season. Do you want to pay that 100 minimum? I don't think it'll be 100. I think it'll be a bit more. But would you want to pay that 100 million minimum for a player that doesn't guarantee you that many games? That's why I think you may be able to hold on to him. I think it's 50-50 where everyone thinks it's 90, probably 90%, 10% that he leaves. So I just want to know your opinion on that. What I know you wouldn't sell him, but what's the actual likelihood of you selling him in the summer?
I think as I say, I think one of the big guns will leave in the summer, regardless of whether we get Europe or not, because we ultimately we've had to succumb to the fact that PSR is PSR, and we want to keep all of our top players. But the reality is a little bit like what Villa did with selling Douglas Luiz, who was arguably their best player last season. You're going to have to sell one of your big players if you want to rebuild and you want to be able to spend money. And that's the harsh reality of that whole situation, which is absolutely rubbish with a club that's got zero debt and an owner that genuinely wants to sell money, who has, by the way, towed the line, not gone over the line, not done anything wrong. Our owners, since they've come in, there's all this talk of Saudi want to do what Man City and Chelsea's done. We haven't. We've towed the line. We've done everything right. Who want to invest in their club and it's been effectively hampered to do so. So I think we're in the understanding now as a fan base that one of them will have to leave. I think the only way Isak leaves is if one of the other ones doesn't leave. So it would mean that he would be the only one to leave. But for me, I would, if I had a choice, I would go with Bruno ahead of Isak if he was going to leave. I think a midfielder is easier to replace than a striker who's guaranteed to score goals, because he is. Like you mentioned, Andrew, about Isak and the way he's played. I mean, he's still scoring goals pretty much game. Yeah. But for me,
there is reports about his contract though, right? About you because of the PSR thing, you can't. Is that any truth to that? You can't sign him to a new contract because
he's got 3 years left on his deal. Like, why would you need to sign him?
I know. I just read a few things.
And to be fair, it would go on to PSR. So there is a genuine question mark on that. But when we've got such a need that we need to strengthen the team, we need a centre back, we need a right winger. It's like, why would we give someone else a contract when they've got 3.5 years left on it at this rather than invest in the team? It just I kind of agree with the club. It just doesn't make sense. It's one that you can revisit in the summer. But what I will say is that with Alexander Isak, he is absolutely doing everything on his own at the moment. He's not getting any service whatsoever. I watch him in games, whether I'm at the ground or not, and some of the runs he makes is like it's special to watch. Some of his movement off the ball, on the ball, is brilliant. People are not finding him, and it's frustrating for me as a fan watching it. Is that he's making great runs, and you can see him. He's like because other players are so down with confidence at the moment that he's struggling off the back of it, but he's still scoring goals. And when Gordon, and I think he will, when Gordon gets back up to speed, Bruno's now playing further forward, which has been a massive help to him. When he gets that service, and hopefully we get a right winger in, he'll be back scoring goals for sure. There's no.
I can't believe, Pete, that Newcastle signed one of the best strikers in the world and didn't think to spend any of the millions after signing Isak on a real creative central figure. It still baffles me that they never did that.
Well,
do you know what?
It baffles me that they didn't sign anybody of any note in the last two windows. That's what me more than anything, to be fair. But I agree with you.
Just to jump in there, I would slightly disagree, Tom, because I think you have two players. You know, he said you're frustrated because Isak's not getting service. I think it's even more frustrating when you've got two players of the ability of Bruno and Tonali that can find him. And I actually think, I know Tonali's more deeper lying, but I actually believe it was unfortunate what happened the first season with obviously the betting and stuff. But I believe had he been fit, you would have seen one of those two move forward. Because I think me and you were saying, Pete, before the Liverpool-Newcastle game, I've watched Newcastle a lot, and I think your fans even said it. There was this notion that Bruno and Tonali didn't work together, but one was playing deeper than the other when the other should have been playing more further forward. Yeah. But I believe that both of those players can give good service to Isak. So the fact they're not, for whatever reason, is even more frustrating because I think you've got a creator. I'll probably say more with Bruno than a Tonali, but Tonali can still create. So it must be even more frustrating.
I'm not sure. Tonali, I know, has been a creative figure, but I mean, even if you look at kind of his creating actions, his shot creating actions for Newcastle is in the 34th percentile for top 5 leagues. It's only 1.94. It's not a huge number. And if when you've got like Bruno Guimaraes, who is a box to box midfielder, it is his best role. Like he's so good at transitions, and then you sit someone similar to kind of the Arsenal mold of a midfield three where you've got the sitter in either Partey or Rice, you've got the left 8, which is sometimes Rice and Moreno, and then you've got that Ødegaard figure on the right. If you had that type of Ødegaard figure, instead of kind of two box-to-box midfielders in Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes, who are kind of tussling with one another as who goes further forward, who goes deeper, I think there'd be more definition about the Newcastle midfield, and that would have suited Isak a hell of a lot more.
I think that's it's a valid point. I mean, one thing I'll say is that it's been so frustrating with Sandro Tonali since he's come back because he has looked really, really good, but yet for some reason Howe's been playing Sean Longstaff ahead of him for certain. And a lot of Tonali's minutes are coming off the bench with like
for the last 10 or 15. It's crazy.
To answer that, that's probably why his kind of shot actions in his percentile so low, because he's not given the opportunity. And when he has played more recently, he's played as a 6, which is what we always said we wanted him to be. Bruno's played there because he gets on the ball a lot, but actually he exposes the defense because he's not defensively minded. Tonali is. His recovery runs, his ability to win the ball back has been absolutely brilliant in the 6. And we saw that against Liverpool. He was probably one of the best midfielders on the pitch. He was absolutely brilliant that day, last week.
There's numbers to back that up as well, Pete, because I was just having a look at kind of his last season at Milan. I said there his shot creating actions per 90, 1.93 this season at Newcastle. His last season at Milan was 3.35, like nearly double. What we're seeing. It still doesn't put him in kind of the Ødegaard realms of your 6+ per game, but it's still like a significant increase on what it is for now, and that is on the manager.
Absolutely, and that's where I agree with fans that are frustrated with him. But for me, they can both play together. They proved it against Liverpool, against a top team, that Tonali in the 6, defending and recovering things and keeping things ticking over. You watch him play; he plays most of his football one touch. Like,
Yeah.
you don't get many players that are that good that can play any type of football match, just one-touch football. And he is very, very special with that. Bruno, we can see further forward, can nip those passes to ease that. But then against Brentford, Tonali and Gordon are on the bench. And it's just like, I know you want to manage players, but these boys are playing one game a week. Surely they can do 1 week where they play 2. Like, the whole thing's frustrating. For me, we have to sign minimum 2 players in January. We need a right winger and we need a centre-back, whether it's Mark Gay or whether it's somebody else. I know we've been with a few others as well. We have to get those two positions sorted. But ultimately, with PSR being frustrating as it is, players are going to have to leave. We've got a full 25-man squad. Players are going to have to be moved on. And it would have been Wilson if he's now not injured. He's out for 2 months again. He's only been back for 4 sub-appearances. He's out for 2 months.
He's out again.
Yeah,
crazy.
That's
Botman back, Pete.
Botman's been in full training for a month now, but we've got James Bunce, who is our fitness guru, who was amazing with Paul Mitchell at Monaco, and he's basically really kind of doing things by the book. So Botman will be back around sort of Boxing Day, around or just after that when we go to Old Trafford. He'll be around the back end of December. So like he's our best centre back, and we have missed him like immensely. But we know it's going to take time for him to get back up to speed. But we need a new, fresh face in that back line, as well as a right winger. So for me, Miggy needs to be sold. Kieran Trippier needs to be moved on. He wants to move. He's not happy. He's got stuff in his personal life going on. And he needs to be moved on because he's one of our highest earners as well, which is hampering us. Wilson would have gone. He won't now because of the fact he's injured again. And there are others. Sean Longstaff's up for sale. I think most Newcastle fans will be happy to move him on. And there's a couple of others. There's rumours that we might even consider selling Harvey Barnes or Willett, which I don't see happening yet. But I think in the summer, those two will be more of a conversation. But yeah, frustrating season for Newcastle United. I'm not going to lie, but for me, we'll be lucky, very, very lucky to get European football, which is a shame because that was my minimum expectation. But I will say this now, and I've said it to you before, Pops, you know this. If we don't get European football, Howe will be sacked. There's no doubt about it.
There's no doubt about it at all. Let's move from Newcastle to Liverpool. Roms, you've got Fulham at home. Fulham are one of those sides this season that you don't really want to bet your house on that you're going to win, if I'm honest. They're a team that have lost me a lot of bets this season when I do have a bit of a... Yeah, you just never know with Fulham, man. You just never know. But I think that Liverpool's run of games, similarly to what I said, that Arsenal got some winnable fixtures. I think Liverpool have, man, because you've just gone through that horrendous run of games and you've come out on top pretty much of all of them. You've now obviously skipped the Merseyside derby. That's, I believe, being played in February. So you've now got a little bit of a break for that. But you've now got, I think, very winnable fixtures. How do you see this one going at the weekend, brother?
It's funny you said Fulham even this season are a funny team. Even the last 2 visits at Anfield, last season, it took 3 worldy goals and we scored in the last 5 to 10 minutes from Trent. They took us to 4-3. They've been and the season before that, I was at the game. We won 1-0, and that was our dreadful season when we finished 5th and we were chasing Newcastle and Man United. We won 1-0, and that was a penalty from Darwin Núñez. So they've made it tricky for us. And then even, I think, last season we won quite comfortably, but they had a lot of injuries. And the season before that, we draw. So in our last 5, we've only beat them. We've beat them twice at Anfield, but most games are very tight. I'm not expecting it to be easy at all. I do think we win the game. What benefits us is that they have some big absences. Reece Nelson, I think, has been quality for them when he has come into the fold. He's injured. Anderson, which majority of our clubs have been linked to, his passing range, by the way, is second to none. He's a ridiculous passer of the ball from centre-back. He's injured. And there's someone else that's key. Reece Nelson, Anderson, and they don't have Calvin Bassey. Now, say what you want. He's one of their better centre-backs. He starts most games. I think he's even their captain. So that does benefit us. Alisson, I love Keller to bits, and I know we're going to get a lot of money for him, but you saw why he's our number 1 against Girona. For me, he is the best. I know some people might say Courtois and whatnot, and it's each to their own, but for me, he is the best keeper in the world. And he, again, if we didn't have him against Girona, you could argue that game could have been a draw, potentially even lost, because we made that game harder for ourselves. Jota's been in full training the past 2 weeks. he'll probably get a 10-minute cameo. I'm expecting. I don't expect him to start the game. Chiesa has also been training, but you never know with Chiesa. It'll be nice. It'll be nice to see him, even if he is on the bench. But we've pretty much got everyone back, bar Konate now. Elliot's back. Chiesa and Jota's been training. Alisson starting against Girona. We've got everyone back, bar Konate at the top of my head. So we should win this game, but it'll be tough. Any Liverpool fans saying, we're going to batter them or beat them comfortably, I'm not subscribing to that notion because Fulham have made it tough. And even if you look at their individuals that they have available, Raul Jimenez coming back into form this season. Smith Rowe's been superb for them. Lucius and Sander Berge in the middle. They played well against U-Pots. 2 big pillars that just make it uncomfortable for you. So it will be a tough game. Anthony Robson, who we've been linked with at left back. Tete at right back that's been playing well. It's going to be a tough game. But look, if you want to win the league and we've got this lot 4 points behind us, you lot, which I expect to beat Everton quite comfortably, we have to win this game. We have to, and I do think we will. But
when's the next time you drop points, Roms? Like, real talk. When's the next game you fancy yourself to drop points?
In the league, so it's Fulham, then it's Spurs, which I'm not expecting us to. Then it's Leicester. Then it's West Ham, then it's United. I'm not going to... In our next 5... I couldn't tell you in the league pots.
You're not filling with my hope, Rom, to be honest. You're naming some teams that I expect you to absolutely steamroll them.
Yeah, and I know my team well. The game I said we'll drop points in, we did. I predicted a 2-2 draw for Newcastle because I know we had won there the last 2 games, but football doesn't work like that. They've always taken us to the wire. 2 injury time goals by Nunes. The season before, do you remember, Pete? Pope came off early and he still played better than us that game as well. So Newcastle's always a terror to go to. So I predicted us to drop points and I said we'll beat Everton. Obviously that game got postponed, but I think we win our next 5 out of 5. So I don't know our games off the top of my head beyond United on the 5th. But yeah, I can't see us dropping points in our next 5. I think we'll get some ugly wins. I think we'll get some comfortable wins. One potential banana skin is West Ham on the 29th. Lopetegui will be sacked by then. I don't think he'll be in the job that long. New manager bounce. Their ground has been...
David Moyes returns for a 3rd time. Yeah, I understand.
God forbid. But their ground has been quite tricky for us in recent years. So, look, cool. You asked me a question. Out of the 5, the one game we could drop points is West Ham away. The other 4, I think we win. If we drop points against Spurs, I don't know what I'll do with myself, honestly. Whether they have Ange or not, because... they've done better in the bigger games, but it's Spurs. I'm sorry. I know some people might think I'm disrespecting them, but I don't think we'll drop points there. So yeah, out of the 5 pots, I think possibly West Ham, but I still think we should come out of that unscathed.
Winning them all, bro. I'm looking now. You got Forest and Brentford away after that. I mean, they're not easy, but like even them, I'd still have Liverpool to win.
Was the Girona performance a bit concerning? Because that wasn't a great game, was it?
Do you know what I'll say about that, Tom? Right, it wasn't the best performance, but I think the players kind of rested on their laurels. I think it's more of, when you have a good team playing bad, there's always 2 questions: were you just bad, or did you just make the opposition look good? And I think it was the latter. I think we made them look good because we were very lackadaisical. We were losing we were getting a lot of the second balls, which isn't like us. I just think our players weren't really at the races, and it was evident in the performance, evident in the scoreline. We stepped it up a bit second half, but we kind of went into that game thinking, look, we've got Fulham on the weekend. We're pretty much through. I know we weren't mathematically guaranteed top 8, but now we are. I just think the players rested on those. Yes, they did play well. They had a lot of ex-Prem players. Brian Hill, you had Dan Juma there. They had a player called Aspria. I think if you just got the name Aspria, you're good. Pete would know that. But they had a few players that gave us problems, but I think it was more us making them look better than what they are, if I would say. So we came out of there unscathed. But we should be back at the races against Fulham. I expect a tough game, but we need the 3 points. For me, that game is a must-win. It's definitely.
Is the Spurs game at Spurs or Anfield?
It's at Spurs, but I'm sorry, Potts, I just don't care. We just still be winning that game. We just still should be winning that game.
You've got to be confident.
It don't matter.
The thing is with Spurs, regardless of their personnel, you get speak to some Spurs fans. Big up the ones that speak to Patty, Jaws, and I might have forgot a few, but regardless of their personnel, they play the same way. High line against Luis Diaz, Salah, Gakpo, whatnot. That's suicide. So I'm not, even if Ange isn't at the job by then, which I think there's a good case for him not to be there by, I think that game's next. It's next Friday. It's next Sunday.
Roms, it's not even a high line. They're fullbacks.
Yeah, they're fullbacks. Yeah.
The Salah's just literally going to have a stroll down the left-hand side against a Ben Davis or an Archie Gray or something like that.
Let's be fair, Surfer. Let's be fair. They did get a good result last night against Rangers, right? So let's just be fair. They got a good result. They didn't lose.
They still won't recognise Fraser Forster as their best player over the past month. He
was actually good last night. I watched that night.
That guy, I don't know who missed. That guy who just literally tore them to shreds, literally, and should have scored. Fraser Forster is saving Spurs. I know they keep losing, but he's there or drawing. He's saving Spurs from getting battered.
It made them big saves against you boys as well, Andrew. Made them before. It made some big saves.
Apparently, Deji said we didn't play well, so I had to cook him. So you know what I mean? That was sort of that was one of the.
Because just to answer the question, I do have to shoot, but I do think it's 5 out. I do think it's 5 out of 5. Won't all be easy. There'll be a few tricky ones, but this is why I just think we'll win the league, because I'm very grounded and I don't like to go early, but I feel we'll get the player in January. I think the momentum's with us. All our big hitters are coming back. I believe Van Dijk and Salah's contracts will be sorted by the new. You know me, Potts. I've accepted Trent. For me, Trent leaves. I accepted that back in September. If he now stays, it will be a pleasant surprise. But I think Van Dijk and Salah, it's a matter of when, not if now. So them two should be tied up. And I just think we'll go into the new year with good stead. We've got United the 5th of January.
Don't you think FSG will count those contract renewals as transfers?
Do you know what's funny? I did say this, Andrew. I think they will count it as transfers, but they'll still give us one. Where I want 2, one of them they'll say nah to 1 transfer because we've just offered new contract. But I think we get 1 player. I will say that. I think we signed 1 player in January. Hopefully, it's. I don't know if you've seen. I know you would have seen today. Tom, I don't know how credible it is, but Zubimendi is now open to leaving in January. So that's alerted Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City.
I think City will push hard for that.
Man City,
I think City will push hard for that.
Yeah, I think he'll probably go to Man City. They'll offer him more and etc. And Pep, that lure of working with Pep is still a bit is attractive. But yeah, I just think
Who would have thought, Ross, that Manchester City need a number 6 more than Liverpool right now? Who would have thought?
Crazy.
It's Who crazy. Said that, man? Listen, bro, love for the love coming on, my bro. Really appreciate it, man. Make sure you go follow Roms, and we'll see you next time, bro. All right?
Bro.
Listen, boys, before we close with some predictions, Andrew, you got Brentford. You ain't beating them at home in the Premier League. I couldn't believe that stat when I heard that, by the way. But they are terrible away from home this season. Brentford have been unbelievable at home, and I think they're one of the top scorers in this season, I think. But away from home, they're literally terrible. So I fancy Chelsea to kind of win this one and get that kind of bogey off your shoulder. But for me, what are you saying about this one, brother?
Well, I just want to thank the FA for putting us at 7 p.m. on a Sunday. So I really appreciate that.
What is all that about?
Premier League and that. I just appreciate that. No, we should, given current form, we should go in there to win. But like you said, we've never beaten them. I actually read this. In this fiction, no, there hasn't been a victory for the home side at all since they haven't beaten us at home and we haven't beaten them at home. Like I said, restart in Bromo, playing very well at home. Away is a totally different situation. We've only got 1 point at all, and I don't think they score a lot as well. But like we rested again we even rested parts of our Europa Conference League team yesterday. We took the basically half a Cobham with us to Astana yesterday. So the big thing is Neto suspended. He picked up a yellow card against Spurs, so he was punished by going to Astana yesterday for his punishment, I think. So Madueke will come in. I don't know if he's going to do the inverted thing again. It worked well against Villa, not so much against Spurs, but he's just got options at the moment. Unlike last year, our injury record this year has been not even close to what it was last year. So the options are there because although we were maybe rightly so mocked for having so many players in the summer, it's now coming into a bit of good fortune that we are able to pick from a bigger squad. So I do put us down. I do put us down to win this game though. Like I think like a 2-0 or 3-1 or something like that. But if we can get this record off our back, and then the next game is against Everton, which we have a horrible record away. It might start it might start to turn Chelsea fans, just more bulk of Chelsea fans, just to say we are in a title race. Not that we're going to win it, but that we just are in a title race, because those are two records that we need to get off our backs. Essentially, so it'll be something that will open, I think, a lot of Chelsea fans' eyes. But no, it's going well at the moment. Maresca is, like I said, he's able to rotate a lot. I think the Conference League has helped with that. And yeah, we roll in with a fresh squad essentially from last week. That was a stroll in the second half against Spurs, really. And it was a stroll, wasn't it? I know. It
was inevitable, Andrew. It was inevitable.
Oh yeah, I kept saying it all week. I kept saying it all week. Oh, Spurs will turn up for big games. It's like you don't understand this record against Chelsea. They just can't work us out. They can't work us out.
Sancho goal. Once that Sancho goal went in, and he obviously was still losing at 2-1. For me, watching it as a neutral, I was always confident that Chelsea were going to win that game, because as soon as you scored, panic set in with those Tottenham players, and it just continued to set in all the way through that game. And you're right, that second half was comfortable.
Well, Pete, I think it shows most Chelsea fans admit this, that we're more worried about this Brentford game than the Spurs game. I think it just shows, you know what I mean? And the Everton game following, because of the records and stuff like that. But no, they're playing well. He's going to probably rotate again during this Christmas period, because I think you just have to. It's just knowing when to do it. And at the moment, Maresca is not doing anything wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's just even getting the inverted thing sort of wrong last week. He changed it at halftime. He didn't wait to the 60th minute or the 70th minute like some managers would do. Well, let's see what he can do in the second half. He knew there was a problem. Lavia got booked. It's a high-profile game. Let's not risk the sending off. Let's change it. Let's adjust them. We shut down basically the left-hand side, and we controlled the game. And I'm sure if something's going wrong on Sunday, hopefully not, but if something needs changing or anything like that, he'll be proactive about it. You know what I mean? So it's just it's just enjoying it. I just wish Chelsea fans had a bit more of a spine, and just say, I'm not saying we're going to win it, just say we are in a title race, because we are in a title race. We're in it until we're out of it.
Andrew, the amount of Chelsea fans, and Charlie as well, the amount of Chelsea fans that just don't want to have that chest and say, you know what, we're there. We're at the moment, we are in that title race. They don't want to say it.
But then they'll go to Pete. But then they'll go. The one reason they'll say that we're not in the title race is, they're not experienced enough. Next sentence they'll go, but next season we'll be in the title and we could possibly win it. What? But wait a minute. If they know,
it's because of social media, though. That's the only reason. Like, if you're having a conversation with mates in the pub and you're a Chelsea fan, you'd be like, "Yeah, I think we're in it," but no one's willing to say it on record, because they know that if Chelsea fall away, they'll get absolutely bantered for it. That's just the world we live in these days.
It's just mad. It's that you can't take away. They can't compute title race and winning a title. It's two separate things. You know what I mean? They can't.
Yeah, the minute you say you're in a title race, they'll laugh and go, "Ha, you didn't win it." Yeah, hang on a minute. I didn't say we were going to.
We know all about that, Dan.
Yes, we know all about that. That's for sure, man. Listen, to close, let's come with some predictions for the games this weekend. There's some good games, to be fair, this weekend. We have got some good ones. Oh, my computer's gone again. Have I completely gone?
No, you're there.
You're there.
Am I there? The whole of my screen is frozen. So, yep, the whole of my screen has completely frozen, people. I have no idea what's happening here. My laptop is
8-hour stream. 8-hour stream. Let's go.
Yeah, it will be. At the moment, I actually can't even click any buttons. So let's go with some predictions for the weekend. I think Arsenal will win 2-0 against Everton. Tom, what are you saying?
Yeah, it should be okay. As I said earlier, I'd like to see Miles Lewis-Skelly get a start in the Premier League after he played so well in midweek. So yeah, hopefully Arsenal can play players in the right positions, and we play relatively confidently and come away with a strong 3-0 win.
What are you saying, Surfer?
Yeah, I'll go the same as Tom. I think they're comfortable against Everton. I know they're coming off like not playing for 10 days, but yeah, I think it'll be back to comfortable. You'll probably see better attacking, like you'd probably follow up from the Monaco performance. You know what I mean? So yeah, 3-0 comfortable win.
Pete?
I was going to say exactly the same. 3-0 comfortable win. Everton are just starting to shift a few goals. They don't look as solid as they did earlier on in the season. And yeah, I think you'll win comfortably.
I unfortunately think Liverpool win comfortably as well. I've gone 3-1 Liverpool at Anfield. What are you saying, Tom?
Yeah, I'm going to manifest a 1-1 draw, mate. So we'll go with that.
Oh, I hope you're right, man. I really hope you're right.
I'm
Surfer,
not.
what are you telling me?
We'll try.
Yeah.
I'm going to say a very comfortable. I'm going to say a comfortable-ish 2-0 to Liverpool. Unfortunately.
Okay, Pete.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's gonna be a bit closer. I'm gonna say 2-1. I can see Fulham scoring at the weekend, so I think it'll be 2-1.
Okay.
Formidable.
Comfortable victory for Newcastle, in my opinion, this weekend at St James's. I don't think Leicester are going to do amazing with Rude. I don't think that this is going to be now Rude Van Nistelrooy takes over and Leicester are going to be fighting up the table. However, Newcastle have let me down a lot this season, particularly on podcasts, but certainly in bets as well. I've lost money with Newcastle. So I will go with a 2-0 victory at St James's Park. What are you saying, Tom?
Yeah, I'm confident that that's probably about right. 2-0. Is Isak back now? I know he's had some injury issues, but he's fine, right, Pete?
He's fine. He's fine.
He's
he's actually, apart from breaking his toe against Wolves way back when, he's pretty much been available every game.
Yeah. Sign him, Arsenal.
No.
Surfer, what are you saying?
I'm going to go 3-2 Newcastle. I just think, it'll be a thriller, hopefully. So 3-2.
Okay. Pete, come on, man.
Don't talk about thrillers, Andrew. My heart can't take it. Seriously.
Oh, sorry, thrillers for us, not you.
Yeah. I cannot. Honestly, we have to win. And I don't know why, because any other time we'd be playing Leicester at St James's Park, I'd be like, yeah, comfortable win. We're going to win this game. Now I don't know what Newcastle to expect.
You're afraid of the rude bounce, aren't you? The rude bounce.
Yeah. I mean, they've got players missing, so that fills me with confidence. But then Pope's now out for a month. He's done his knee on top of that. So we've got question marks at goalkeeper. I'm going to go. I was confident yesterday before I heard the Pope news. And I went 3-0 Newcastle, but I'm going to maybe lower that, and I'm going to probably go 2-0 to Newcastle. We just need to win.
Yeah, take the 3 points, man. Wolves Ipswich, for me, this is obvious. It's going to be 1-1, and between the minute of 87 and 97, Wolves are going to get a last-minute winner, because that's all Ipswich do is concede last-minute goals. So I'm going to go 2-1 Wolves. Tom, what are you saying, bruv?
No, I want to go 2-1 Ipswich. Sorry, they're just surprised. They've just been so unlucky this season.
They have. They
Ipswich.
really have.
And they deserve more than they've been getting. And I'm afraid that it's going to happen against Arsenal in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go with the 2-1 Ipswich win. Okay,
Surfer.
This Wolves team, man, they can go to Fulham and battle them 4-2 and then lose 4-0. They only lose 4-0 to Everton 1 week. I'm going to go 3-2 Ipswich. It's really no goals in this game because they're both rubbish in defence, obviously. So, but yeah, 3-2 Ipswich. I do like them. Yeah.
Pete,
I'm going Ipswich. I think Ipswich will win. I'm going to go 3-1. I think this will be. If I'm right in thinking, this will be their first win of the season.
No, they have one win. They beat Tottenham.
Yeah, they did. Sorry. Yeah, they did. So, but regardless, I do think they'll win this one.
They need to win.
Yes.
Okay, Forest and Villa. This one, I'm gonna go 2-2. I'm gonna go 2-2. City ground. I fancy Nottingham Forest, man. I've got to say it. And Villa are just so I don't know what to talk about with Villa anymore under Emery. But yeah, 2-2. Tom.
Yeah, I think this is the most defining game of both these teams' seasons. I think whoever wins this will push on, and I think the other could fade as a result, because both of them, sitting in those 5th and 6th positions, both on 25 points in the league as well. So I draw, I think, is a safe bet. I think Aston Villa, after that win in midweek, might take that momentum forwards, and so I'll go with a 2-0 Villa win with this one.
Yeah,
Andrew?
Villa's record after Champions League games is I don't think they've won after the Champions League game.
I changed my mind. 2-0 Forest.
I'm going to go 2-1 Forest. They're a good side, Forest. I know they've had a bit of a mixed bag up until the Man United game last week, but I think Villa's record after Champions League games is not that good. So I'll go 2-1 Forest.
Okay, Pete.
Seeing his doors in the chat, trying to goad me with his Forest are in a title race on Newcastle. You know what, Potts? He's still so angry because he gave it the absolute bigger that they were going to beat us at their place, and because we turned them over comfortably, he hasn't forgiven me since. So I'm going to be a bit more shameless. I'm going to go Villa. Villa win. Villa 3-0.
Here he is.
I'm going to go Villa 3-0. How'd you like that? How'd you like that?
I'll tell you what, Dora and Locks last night, that was unbelievable show.
I watched that clip. That was unbelievable. That was like two neighbours over a fence.
It was so funny. Oh, literally, go watch that, people, if you haven't. It's absolute class. Okay, and Brighton Palace is actually, do you know, it's probably the worst derby in the Premier League, isn't it?
A23 derby, is it? A23, is it?
Yeah, how is that derby? Let's just be real. I think Brighton win this. I've got to say it. I think Brighton win this. I will go 3-1 Brighton. What are you saying, Tom?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think a home win, Palace on the road, not great. So yeah, and obviously ahead of playing Arsenal midweek as well, and back-to-back games against Arsenal. So hopefully a Brighton win because knock them 2-0.
Yeah, Surfer.
I think Brighton are going to slap them. I'm going to say 4-0. I'm going to say 4-0 Brighton.
Wow, Pete.
I'm different. I think it's going to be a draw. You know, I've just got a feeling like Palace are just that type of team where they turn up when you don't expect it. Yeah, and I'm gonna put it down 2-2.
Okay. Then we got the Man United derby, the Manchester derby, I should say. Manchester derby. I actually think this is going to be a crap game.
Yeah,
I think this is going to be like 1-1 rubbish game of football, but maybe City will beat Man United, but I just think it could be a crap 1-1 draw. Tom?
Oh, I don't. I think this could be goals, actually, because I just think they're both just so desperately in need of getting like Amorim really needs a big win. Like the games that he's won, have been, you'd expect them to get the results, really. So I think they'll really be motivated for this, especially with City probably in the worst position that they've ever been in the last however many years we can remember. So I think United will try and take that, but then obviously they've got their own issues, which will allow Man City, I think, to get a couple of goals. So I'm going to go for 3-2 City.
Okay, Surfer.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're saying, but I think both from Ireland, both attacks stink. You know what I mean? In terms of goals, it's just
6 of the last 7 titles. Their attack stinks.
I just think. I mean, this season, I think it's like apart from Haaland, to take Haaland out, I don't know who scores for City in that.
Or United.
Or United. Yeah, United. I mean, I'll
Doku
go.
and Savinho are particularly.
Yeah, they're a downgrade from Morris and
awful players.
Yeah, they're just not good at the moment. But you stole my scoreline down 1-0. So you know what? I'm gonna go 0-0. I'll go 0-0.
Oh, God. That is bad.
It's not gonna be entertaining, I don't think. So
thankfully for the neutrals, I'm going wild. I think this is going to book the trend because normally these big games that get hyped up tend to be really, really poor or low goal scoring. I think this is going to book the trend. I think there's going to be goals in this game because both defenses are poor at the moment. And I'm going to go Man City 5, Man United 3.
What?
Wow.
I'm going for it. I just think there's going to be
proven wrong. If that's the case, I'm glad to be proven wrong.
I thought you was going to say like 3-2 or something, like 5-3.
I just think there's going to be Haaland will get so much space. He will bag goal. I wouldn't Don't put it past Haaland bagging a hat-trick on Sunday. Don't put it past him.
Z ain't going to be happy, man, in the chat. I'll tell you this now. If they concede 5, but we'll see how it goes. Last 2 games, let's do these quickly. Chelsea, Brentford. I think this is going to be a comfortable win for Chelsea, actually. I don't think this is going to be the game that they expect it to be. Brentford, I hope, can take something. I'm going to go with a 3-1 victory for Chelsea. What are you saying, Tom?
Yeah, this is really weird. Probably Brentford will go 1-0 up in the first minute, as they do, and then Chelsea will gradually get it back. So I'll go 4-1 Chelsea.
Andrew?
People are stealing my scorelines. That was 1 and 2 I had down. I'll go.
It's gonna be 5-1 then, surely.
No, I'll go 4-2. I'll go 4-2 Chelsea.
4-2. Okay, Pete.
I'm going to go 3-2 Chelsea.
3-2 Chelsea.
Yeah.
Okay, then we got Southampton Spurs. Does anyone see Southampton beating Spurs? There's a few people I've spoken to thinks they're going to. I don't think they will. I think they'll lose 2-1. I've gone Tottenham to win this 2-1. Tom, what are you saying?
The thing is, this is like the stupidest game.
I know.
It's just the stupidest game. Like, both managers are the most stubborn managers for their own philosophies, and they're willing to accept like 60 goals conceded just so they can play the way they want. So it could be fine. Again, it could be like a high scorer, or it could be just 2 utterly dismal sides like playing off against one another. I'll go with the former though. I'll go 2-2 in this one.
Okay, Andrew.
I know what you're saying there, Dan, Tom and Dan, because when they went down to 10 men against us, they still tried to play the same way, even though they were 3-1 down. I could not believe it. Like, I mean, if Spurs drop any, this is a must-win game for Spurs. I'm sorry, I think Southampton are the worst team to come up in years for me, given that they're so stubborn. But I'll go 2-1. I'll go 2-1 Spurs. I'll go 2-1 Spurs just. But it wouldn't be. Would it surprise anyone?
No.
This is a
Does
traditional.
he get sacked if they don't win this? Do you think?
I think he has to. I think he has to.
I don't know if they will. They just seem so married to him as an idea.
I don't think they will, but he has to. But this is the most traditional Spursy game I have ever seen in my life. Do you know what I mean? They'll be 2-0 up and somehow draw it 2-2. It'll be that. But I'll go 2-1. I'll go 2-1.
I agree with Z in the chat. He said Southampton gave Liverpool the game, and they absolutely did at home. So I think Southampton are more than capable of winning this game. I actually think Southampton are going to score first. I think they're going to go 1-0 up, but I reckon it'll be a 2-2.
If Southampton beat Tottenham just need to fold the football club. Like, real talk. Like, they just need to fold and just.
We have to go to St Mary's on the last day of the season. Imagine if Arsenal have to win the league by going to St Mary's and mess it up.
Mate, honestly, it is unbelievable how I just cannot believe what I'm seeing with Tottenham. It's just embarrassing, if I'm honest. Well, there is one Monday night game that we all forgot about, which was Bournemouth West Ham. I really like Bournemouth, by the way. I really like Iriola. Really like Iriola football. I'm going Bournemouth to win this one, man. I'm going to go 2-1 Bournemouth. What are you saying, Tom?
Yeah, I think Bournemouth have got this. I've really enjoyed watching them this season. I really appreciate Iriola as a coach. I love the high intensity football. I love the aggression. Something about Basque coaches. Just love to really press. And so I'll go with I'll go 3-0 Bournemouth. Okay, Andrew.
I'm glad I'm not going to Bournemouth. I'm glad I got my 3 points away from Bournemouth. I'm glad I'm not going down there for the season.
Tough place to go, man.
They're beating your mob City. I mean, they should have battered Spurs the other day. They should have absolutely. I'm going to go a very comfortable 2-0 win for Bournemouth. Very comfortable, I think.
Okay, Pete.
I think Bournemouth win. I can't decide between 1-0 or 2-0. So I'll go 2-0. More than capable of it. I'm gonna go 2-0 Bournemouth.
Okay. Interesting. Listen, people, big weekend coming up. It's always a big weekend at the moment. It's towards Christmas time, which is always a fun time for football. Big up to every single one of you for coming on. Big up to Tom at the Gooner Talk TV. Big up to Andrew Wintersurfer. Big up to Pete at Loaded Mag, NUFC, and also big up to Roms as well. Please make sure you check out the sponsors of this channel. We've got manscaped.com. FTM20 is the code you need for that. click on the link in the description. And then below it, you'll see another link in the description, all pinned in the comments for reality raffles. Make sure you get your chance to win a football experience. If you are a football fan and cannot get tickets to games, then there's a great opportunity for you. For just 99p per ticket, all you do is click on the link and it will take you straight there. And all of the instructions are there for you. So please make sure that you get involved. FTM10 gives you 10% off of it, but it's very, very cheap offer at the moment anyway. This is going to redirect you to the Highbury squad where Sophie, Lee Judges, and the Toffees TV are talking about the Arsenal and Everton game. And of course, Super Kevin Campbell. So please make sure you go and show them some love and say 12th man raid, Dan Potts raid, whoever sent you, and enjoy that one. We'll see you next time, people. We're out of here.